Hello, can you hear me? Naresh, can you let me know if you can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. We just wait for others to join in. Namaste. Sadashiva-samārambhām Shankarācārya-madhyamām Asmadācārya-paryantāṃ Vande Guru-paraṁparāम्. Om. Okay. Today we are going to continue with the subject that I briefly introduced in the last session, which is Jiva, Ishvara, aikyam. It's a very important topic because it's a culmination of all Vedantic lessons. Now, this is also called Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam, right? And the idea conveyed here is that the Atma or Chaitanyam is only Ekam. Aikyam means oneness, right? So Atma or the Chaitanyam is only one, and that's one Chaitanyam alone is expressing through matter. And when that Chaitanyam is functioning through the individual matter called Shariratrayam, we refer to that as Jiva. The same consciousness, Chaitanyam or Aatma, which is manifesting through the Prapanchatrayam, we refer to as Ishvara or Paramatma, right? So we did study about Shariratrayam. We also studied about Prapanchatrayam during the last few sessions, right? So the consciousness that is reflected in the Prapanchatrayam, we refer to as Paramatma, and in the Shariratrayam as Jivatma, right? So there is only one Atma which is functioning through the Anaatma and gets the two names Jivatma and Paramatma, right? So this is the basic teaching, Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyatvam or Atma Ekatvam. Now, I have just used some legends here so that it is easier for us to assimilate this. So if you see the Sthula Shariram, the Sukshma Shariram and the Karana Shariram, which are shown in green, represents Shariratrayam or the three different reflecting medium. On the other hand, the purple ones represent the Prapanchatrayam, which is Sthula Prapancha, Sukshma Prapancha and Karana Prapancha, right? So you have the Shariratrayam, which is the reflecting medium on the Jiva side, and the Prapanchatrayam on the Paramatma side. So just to make sure that we get this idea, firmly ingrained in the head, I thought it is better that, I use some legends, nothing beyond that, right? Now, similarly, if you see here, it is very important to note that the consciousness itself is aikyam and it cannot have any attributes, etc. However, depending on the reflecting medium, right, the distortions can occur because of the reflected medium. So as I said, due to the Shariratrayam being at the micro level, you can have more distortions, whereas you can have certain superior attributes when it comes to Prapanchatrayam. So this is another point to be noted. The same consciousness, when it is reflected in different mediums, due to distortion, there can be negative virtues as well as positive virtues. So Paramatma side having positive virtues and the Jivatma side having negative virtues. It can happen that way, right? And now the red ones that show up as RC1, RC2, RC3, that is the three different reflected consciousness, collectively is known as Jivatma, and RC4, RC5 and RC6 is collectively known as Paramatma. So I've indicated that using another set of legends. So we saw Shariratrayam, Prapanchatrayam, correspondingly Jivatma and Paramatma. Now, a very important point that I had missed in the last session, and maybe I did not spend enough time on it, is the Karana Shariram is also referred to as Avidya, Avidya, which has been there for ever, beginningless, right? And Maya, the Karana Prapancham is also referred to as Maya, right? It is the seed form from which the entire world arises and resolves during Pralayam. So at the time of Pralayam, basically everything resolves into Avidya and Maya. So this is the complete representation of the Jivatma, Paramatma sides and the aikyam also. Essentially, Brahman, the original consciousness, is only one, and the reflections are many in this form depending on the medium in which it is reflecting. Now, there are, as I said, there are lots and lots of prakriyas or methodologies to describe and discuss this, because it is a very, very subtle and abstract topic, right? They have, they either use the example of, the sun reflecting in the pond or river. That is one kind of example that they use in the Shastras. The other kind is pot space and total space. Another example they use, which means the pot, the outer shape of the pot is just a mere outline, and once that is not there, the space is the same. So this example is slightly different from the sun getting reflected example, right? So these are all various prakriyas that Shastras discuss, and they call it, Abhasavada, Pratibhimbavada, Avachedavada, etc. And there are very many acharyas who prefer one over the other or have discussed one at length as compared to the other. This is just more for information's sake, right? So let's move on. Now, in the as part of the aikyam, just summarizing, Aatmaa, the Chaitanyam, is only one or ekam. Chaitanyam functioning through individual matter called Shariratrayam is Jivatma. The very same consciousness functioning behind the total matter, that is Prapanchatrayam, the very same Atma is called Paramatma. So when the Anaatma matter is removed, both are one and the same Atma or Brahman, right? This is the important points with respect to aikyam, right? So Jivatma and Paramatma are essentially the same. In the absence of if you discern the Shariratrayam and the Prapanchatrayam, they are Jivatma and Paramatma are essentially the same, right? Now, a very important topic on the relationship between Atma and Anaatma, right? Now, it is a kind of dependent relationship or supported relationship. What do we mean by this? I'll just explain in a few minutes. Now, matter depends upon consciousness to prove its existence. This is a very, very deep statement, right? Even to prove its existence, matter has to depend upon consciousness. If you reflect, we will understand that it is absolutely true. To say that there is a clock in front of me or a computer in front of me, right? I need to be aware, which means I need to be conscious, right? So to show or to prove that I am existent, I don't require any proof because my existence is very evident to me. Therefore, matter depends upon consciousness for both to prove its existence as well as for its functioning. So to know that there is a computer, I should be conscious, right? And obviously I should have the computer should exist for me to discern that, right? So it is a dependent relationship. For everything, matter depends on consciousness. The very awareness of the matter comes only from consciousness, right? So consciousness is satyam, the independent or swatantra principle, whereas matter is mithya or paratantra. Without consciousness, matter cannot exist. Example that we generally give in the Shastra is that of clay and pot. Clay exists independent of pot. Even if the pot is broken, the clay can continue to exist, whereas pot cannot exist independent of clay. This is very, very subtle and abstract topic. There are many Upanishads and Shastrams that you go through to understand this concept. So wood is called Satyam, the furniture is called Mithya, right? So similarly, Atma is called Satyam, Anaatma is Mithya. Gold is Satyam, ornaments are Mithya. Water is Satyam, waves, oceans, rivers, wells, tanks, lakes are all Mithya. So Satyam means independent and Mithya is dependent. So Atma is one and Anaatmas are many, right? And this one Atma alone appears as Jivatma at individual level and Paramatma at total level. So therefore, the Vedantic teaching actually can be represented in three statements, right? So the essence of Vedanta is Paramatma is Satyam, Anaatma is Mithya, and Jivatma is identical with Paramatma, right? That Jivatma, Atma is you. Tat Tvam Asi. This is from the Chandogya Upanishad 687, right? Up to the 16th section, the Upanishad repeats Tat Tvam Asi. What this means is, if you are able to remember the mithyatvam of the world and the mithyatvam of everything around you and claim the Atma behind you as you. That's why the capital letter Y is there. Then you are able to enjoy the world as an entertainment. So Swamiji always gives this example of like going to the movie, right? You know that the screen is actually the truth there. The rest of it is just a projection. So we can have emotions at when you go to the movie and you can get moved by it, but you can shake off the emotions by remembering the mithyatvam of the movie. Similarly, Jnani can raise his level from the mithyatva jagat to the satyam Brahman. For this, mental discipline is required. Nididhyasanam is required. It is very important. Or Brahmabhyasa Rupa, Shravana-bhyasa Rupa, Nididhyasanam, Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa, Nididhyasanam. Basically, chapter 6 of Gita talks about how mentally you need to take sannyasa from the world and abide in your higher nature for some time. And this will help you in your dealings with the world. So this is the essence of Vedanta basically. Paramatma is Satyam, Anaatma is Mithya, Jivatma is identical with Paramatma, and that Jivatma, Atma is you, none other than you, right? Now, this is called actually a Mahavakyam, right? Now, this is a Mahavakyam. Now, Mahavakyams occur in the Upanishads in several places, right? For instance, I'm just giving you a few examples. Prajnanam Brahma occurs in Aitareya Upanishad. Now, this is part of the Rig Veda. You have Ayam Aatmaa Brahma. This self is Brahman, appearing in Mandukya Upanishad, which is part of Atharvana Veda. Tatatvam Asi occurring in Chandogya Upanishad, which is part of Samavedam, and Aham Brahmasmi coming as a Mahavakya in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad of Shukla Yajurveda. So every Upanishad has this Mahavakyam where the Jivatma and the Paramatma are equated and said that there's none other than one Atma behind both, you know, the Ishvara as well as the Jiva. So such statements are referred to as Mahavakyam, and we look at it with reverence. And through Nididhyasanam, we are able to discern this and assimilate this teaching. So this is the essence of Vedanta. Now, we've seen shravana-mananam and nididhyasanam earlier, but since it's very important for us to now, you know, revisit just after we've gone through Mahavakyam, we will quickly go over shravanam, mananam and nididhyasanam. So as we studied, it is nothing but consistent and systematic study of the scriptures under a live and competent acharya. Now, this is very, very important with respect to this systematic study. It is exactly like building a house in an orderly manner. Now, you can throw the bricks, right? But then you will not be able to construct a neat room and, you know, a building, a home, etc. And similarly, your brain will get cluttered with various ideas if you just pick up some, you know, some ideas from one book, another book, etc. There is a methodology by which you go through the study, and of course under a live and competent acharya. So the difference between a pile of bricks and a house is exactly how the Vedantic study can be done in a haphazard manner and a systematic study. This is number one. Second is, it has to continue for a length of time. It is very, very important. For instance, you know, we have this house being built and then we construct the roof. We have to give time for, you know, weathering. We have to wait for it to properly set, etc. Similarly, here the study has to go on for a length of time. So Shravanam becomes very important when it has to be gone through in a consistent and continuous manner for a length of time, right? And there is a prescribed way by which each guru will take you. The guru knows exactly what path to take, right? So that is very important. And during Shravanam, I only gather the ideas. I don't ask questions. If questions come, I keep them aside until one comprehensive study is over. Until I complete the study, I just wait, right? And I can have questions. I just keep the doubts aside and I gather the ideas. This process is called Shravanam, and Shravanam requires a lot of patience, and we say never come to a conclusion during this phase, right? Never be judgmental, never be critical. Now then we move on to Mananam, which is the second stage. Here I try to tie up all the ideas of Vedanta and make a neat garland out of the teaching, right? Now, we have studied so many topics, even take introduction to Vedanta, right? Now from sadhane, chatushraya, sampatti to karma yoga to so many things. Now what is the role of karma yoga? What is the role of upasana yoga? Now several doubts might come. But once you go through everything and you are able to start connecting the dots, and you will have still some doubts which will remain. Generally there will be no doubts, because it is in the form of Guru Shishya Samvada, and therefore there would have been enough time for your doubts to get removed, because you have set aside the questions would get clarified automatically. But if you still have questions, our Vedanta or our Hindu way of studying this gives us full freedom, right, to actually clarify all of these doubts. We never say don't ask questions at all, right? The teacher is available to answer or to help the students in removing all kinds of doubts, because doubts are obstacles to Dhrida Jnanam, right? And we don't want samshayam or doubts in the knowledge, right? So Mananam removes all the obstacles in the intellect and makes the knowledge into a doubtless knowledge with conviction. So what is this knowledge? With regard to my essential nature, my real nature, my higher nature, right? And Vedanta is not a faith, Vedanta is not a belief, Vedanta is actually knowledge, right? And Mananam is an intellectual process. We are not meditating here at all. We are clarifying our doubts either by going back to our notes, studying the same thing over and over again, or reading a new text, etc. But we are connecting everything and clearing our doubts intellectually, right? Now, after this, we come to Nididhyasanam, right, which is assimilation and conviction. You may all remember the drama that I talked about, which is, the Barbers Association, coming up with a drama. And since they are not used to, playing the role of Dasharatha, how, the habit itself makes them talk differently. I gave you that example. So similarly, here we need to spend a lot of time to assimilate this knowledge and gradually develop conviction in this knowledge, because ultimately, right, since we are in samsara and we have the basic problem of ajnanam, and I'm facing, right, constantly raga, dvesha, all these emotional problems which are born out of ignorance is there habitually in us. It will take a long time for us to get over it, right? So conversion of the intellectual knowledge into emotional strength is actually Nididhyasanam, right? How do we do that? Now, all the emotional problems will express only in two forms, right? Now, it can either be, the situation may be choiceless, which requires acceptance, right? We should have sufficient emotional strength to accept this, right? And the second one is, now in a choiceful situation, right? That means there is a choice available, which means the situation can be changed or improved. Our mind should be tranquil and should not obstruct the effort to improve the situation. So for both of these, we need to strengthen the emotional mind, right? One is to accept the choiceless situation. Second is to be calm and actually take up situations where there are choices and actually work on the situation, right? So for both of these, we need a peaceful and emotional mind. So Nididhyasanam helps us in getting equanimity and poise, right? Very, very important. So the mind must be strengthened through this way, right? Worrying over the choiceless situations becomes an obstacle in improving our, even the situations where we have a choice, right? So it is very, very important that we go through this three-step process of shravanam, which is done with the help of teacher, mananam, which is done both with the help of the teacher and independently, whereas nididhyasanam has to be done independently or alone only. No teacher can help in nididhyasanam, and one has to apply. The application of this knowledge is daily during your daily turmoil has to be done by the individual alone, right? So this is the process by which we gain jnanam, and we saw this under jnana yoga. Therefore, through jnana yoga, we get this knowledge, right? And Krishna warns in the Gita several times, and even Upanishads warn, saying any amount of study will be of no use unless it is assimilated through mananam and nididhyaasana, right? Therefore, through jnana yoga, we get this knowledge. So, benefits of this knowledge, right? The first phalam is Jivan Muktihi, right? Let us see what is Jivan Muktihi. Is the virtue, the phalam enjoyed at mental level in various forms. It is purely at the mental level and not at the physical level, because it is knowledge, and therefore it gives the benefit at the mental level. The first benefit, right, and the most important benefit is independence. I am mentally, emotionally, or psychologically an independent person, which means that the presence and absence of things, right, and beings will not affect me emotionally. Only when I am dependent on external factors, their presence and absence will upset me emotionally, right? So that is the first benefit, right? Now, the second benefit is there is a sense of fulfillment, right? Now, the external setup can change all the time. Money can come, go, house status might change, position, we could retire, or we could change jobs, or we may not have a job, or, in old age, you can have the fear of loneliness, all of this, right? So all of this, in either through independence or the sense of fulfillment in life, you will not have all these worries, right? And for Purnatvam, you always associate yourself with the Aatma, which is Satchit Ananta Swarupaha, and therefore I am free from limitation, right? Now, if I am a person, then I can feel rejected, but nobody can reject me if I claim the all-pervading Aatma. So sense of isolation, sense of limitation, sense of rejection goes away in this, right? So there are practical benefits of independence as well as sense of fulfillment all the time in life. And of course, the third benefit, which is very, very important, is samatvam. Samatvam means the emotional strength to face ups and downs of life, right? Jnanam becomes a great shock absorber, right? So in life, I cannot control my future situation all the time, right? In fact, many things are beyond my control. Like, we don't even know how wife or husband will behave after a few years. We don't know how the children will behave once they grow up, once they are married, or once they just have their own views, right? And it helps us actually get prepared to face anything, whether it is career, whether it is family. I would say all the pancha anaatmas, right? We have seen body, mind, family, possession, as well as profession. In any of the pancha anaatma, we are now, ready to face any unpredictable situations or change in situations. So this jnana yoga and this knowledge helps me actually have samatvam in life, equanimity, emotional strength to face ups and downs, right? This is the third major benefit. So Jivan Muktihi is just independence, a feeling of Purnatvam and Samatvam or equanimity. And how do we measure this? I've spoken about FIR reduction and CCC increase. That is frequency, intensity, and recovery period after emotional disturbance. And CCC is cheerfulness, confidence, and we talked about this about a couple of weeks back. So FIR and CCC, right? Cheerfulness, confidence, and one more thing I'm missing, calmness, right? So all three we will have, which will increase. So our own test, because this is an internal test, nobody else can tell you whether you have got Jivan Mukti or not. The measure of Jivan Mukti for our own selves is FIR reduction and CCC increase, right? Now, 5 capsules of Vedanta as summarized by Swami Paramarthananda, which, we can practice by every day, as he says, retiring to the green room and claiming the higher I is, I am of the nature of external and all-pervading consciousness. I am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. By my mere presence, I give life to the material body, and through the body, I experience the material universe. I am not affected by anything that takes place in the material world and in the material body. By forgetting my real nature, I convert life into a struggle, and by remembering my nature, I convert life into a sport or entertainment. A Jivan Mukta, it doesn't mean that he should not enjoy life, but with equanimity, he can face life and enjoy all the entertainments as well, right? These 5 capsules, as Swamiji says, is something that we need to take regularly, and depending on the samsara that we are facing, we may need to increase the dosage of the capsules, right? Now, the second benefit of this knowledge is Videha Mukti, which is freedom from Punarjanma, right? Now, I'm going to talk about law of karma, and after that also we will revisit this topic, right? But a jnani, what happens at the time of death is the physical body is dropped, right? So the separation of the Aatmaa from the physical body is actually what is called as death, right? Now, once the physical body dies, that is the physical body is, cremated, it decays or merges into the Panchabhutas or the 5 elements. The subtle body and the causal body continue to exist, right? And this, right, along with the RC is carried to another body. This is the normal travel of an Ajnani. We will revisit this again, but I just want, for the completion's sake, I'll complete it here. In the case of a Jnani, right, there is no question of carrying it elsewhere, right? The Sukshma Shariram merges into the Sukshma Prapancha, Karana Shariram merges into Karana Prapancha, and the RCs all go back into there's no RC after that, right? Because the Sukshma Shariram and Karana Shariram merge into Karana Prapancha and Sukshma Prapancha. So the Jnani does not survive as an individual at all, right? Now, with the Shariratrayam gone, the name Jivatma itself doesn't apply. So, he is one with the Paramatma. So, this was the question on universal consciousness, which somebody asked in the last class. So, there is nothing left now because of the merger with the Paramatma. The merger is a seeming merger, right? Now, just like, all the rivers merge into the ocean, whether it is Ganga, Yamuna, or any other river. So, similarly, the Sukshma Karana Shariram also will just merge into the Karana Prapancha and Sukshma Prapancha. So they say that there is another way of talking about it, which we will see. The scriptures present the topic in a very different way. They say Jnanam stops Punarjanma by destroying all karma. So just wait for a couple of minutes. We will see what this sentence means also, right? So Jnanam stops Punarjanma by destroying all karmas. So we will enter into the next topic on this karma. So as far as Videha Mukti is concerned, all that we need to know is the Shariratrayams, that is obviously the Sthula Shariram is either buried or cremated. The rest of the Sharirams merge into the Prapancha, right? We will now enter into the next important, the last important topic, which is law of karma, right? And then we will revisit Videha Mukti in that context, right? So now let's get into law of karma, which is the principle behind rebirth as well as freedom from rebirth, right? Now, the first principle, right, for law of karma is that we should remember in understanding the law of karma is that every action that we do, a deliberate action, not an involuntary action, every willful, deliberate action that we do, the Shastra points out that we produce 2 forms of result. One is called the visible result or drishta phalam, right? And the other is called the invisible result or adrishta phalam. Very important. So there is a visible phalam and an invisible phalam. And if the action is a good action, there is a good visible and invisible result. And if it is a bad action, there is a bad visible and invisible result, right? For example, when I give some charity or feed some people or send some money to the earthquake hit people, the visible result is obviously there, right? You can see proportionate to the amount that I give. This is the visible result. On the other side, the visible result is, right, there are, like, everybody knows that, somebody is being clothed, etc. But there is a other side to it, which is a noble action of helping others. It produces an invisible positive result called adrishtam. And since the action is good, it is called su-adrishtam. Very important. Su-adrishtam means good invisible result, right? On the other hand, when I cheat somebody and earn, right, some money, the visible result is what? Increase in bank balance. That is the visible result. But there is an invisible result, which is I have hurt somebody by cheating somebody, right? Even though I escaped the laws of the government by intelligently cheating or bribing, even though I have a visible increase in my money, there is an invisible result, an invisible negative result called duradishtam. Dur means negative, invisible result. And the su-adrishtam is referred to as punyam, a very, very unique concept in Hinduism. And the individual negative result, duradrishtam, is called papam. So thus, every deliberate action, in addition to visible result, produces punyam and papam. So the definition of punyam is positive invisible result and papam is negative invisible result. Now I don't see punyam papam, right? I never see that, right? So you won't see the punyam and papam. So it doesn't mean that it is not there. This is the first principle. The second principle, right? Now, what produces punyam and what produces papam is determined based on two norms. The first norm is scriptural injunctions. Whatever the scriptures promote, enjoin, that they will produce punyam, and whatever the scripture prohibits, such actions will produce papam, etc. Right? It will go as per the scriptural injunction, right? So something like the report coming in the newspaper saying a little bit of liquor is good for health, right? Now, the scriptural injunction is that you are not supposed to use it, even if it is good for her heart. So the first norm is scriptural injunction. That's what the Shastra says, right? Even in cough syrups, there is a percentage of alcohol, which may be good for health. This is scientifically, but the scriptural injunction, if it says that it should not be done, then this is the first norm that will be considered for punyam and papam, right? This is Shastra Vidhi Nishedaha. That is, we should not go against what the Shastra says, right? That is the first one. The second norm is based on motive, right? Based on motive. Now that is very, very important, right? There is no, for instance, there is an action which is not discussed in the scriptures, say traveling by train. It doesn't say train travel na kuryat. It doesn't say that. So there is no vidhi nishedaha here. So you can travel. But there are other cases where the Shastra is silent, and if you know that the motive is bad, it will create papam. If the motive is good, it will create punyam. So very important. There are two norms based on which the punyam and papam will be produced. One is scriptural injunctions. Second is based on motives. The third principle of law of karma, right? Punyam will result in sukham, papam in dukkham, right? Papam crystallizes into pain, right, in due course. Now, this course, right, due course, is unfortunately not known. Now, the Shastra says that it depends on the kind of punyam, the kind of papam, right? There is an appropriate time at which it will fructify. It can happen tomorrow, it can happen next decade, it can also happen next janma, right? So the gestation period, we don't know. It will remain dormant for a long period of time also, right? Shastra compares it with different types of seeds, right? Some, when you plant like mustard, same day it will grow. Papaya, mango, coconut, everything has different times by which it will come up, right? It will sprout. So all visible punyams and papams will fructify in due course, but when it fructifies, we are not aware of it. There are times prescribed at which each one will come, to which we are not privy. So we do not know when the fructification will happen, right? So therefore, it is very, very important to note that papam and punyam both, which are invisible, will get accrued in our account, right? And we will not know when they are actually getting fructified. Very important to know that. Time frame varies greatly, right? Now, due to unfructified punyam and papam, we will have to take punarjanma and an appropriate body for reaping the result of our action, right? Very, very important. Due to unfructified punyam and papam, we will have to take punarjanma and an appropriate body which is in as per the punyam and papam for reaping the result of our actions, right? The scripture says nobody can escape from the moral laws of the Lord. And the Lord or the Ishvara is a karma phala data. He just executes as per the law of karma. He cannot be fair or unfair, or he cannot be partial or to one person and not do something for the other person just because we pray. We can pray to a certain extent, but he will have to administer the law of karma in a fair and just way, right? Though we may feel that he is unfair at some times because we are not able to see the big picture, right? Very, very important, right? Now, because of the law of karma, certain important attitudinal changes, right, need to come, right? And it needs to be assimilated by every individual, right? In fact, more than self-knowledge, right, that's the next higher knowledge. We need to assimilate this before our problems start in life. So, before entering Grihastha-ashrama, right from the type, even by birth, childbirth, our family in which we are born, all of them are determined by law of karma. But even before we enter the Grihastha-ashrama, right from the type of wife we get, right, or husband we get, all depends on the punyam and papam, right? Now, the law of karma explains the disparities and differences in the living beings. And it really helps me, right, in accepting the inexplicable suffering without resistance or better acceptance, right? Now, the assimilation of law of karma will bring some healthy attitudinal changes, right? Now, why are living beings born differently, right? As I said, why some of them have better parents, some of them have better homes, better world they are brought into. The answers come only from law of karma. And if you don't accept the law of karma, you will have to resort to the theory of chance, right? We have a proper way by which we explain the law of karma. And if you don't believe in it, then the only option left is the theory of chance. And generally intelligent people or science, none of us want to believe chance, right? We keep asking these questions. So the disparity is because of the law of karma, right? That's the first one. And the second advantage, as I said, is it helps us accept the inexplicable suffering. Sometimes, I cannot remember the past action, especially if it is part of the previous janma. There is no way I can even remember, right? But something happens, and instead of questioning, beyond all our effort, something really unexplainable happens. There is a way of understanding it. And they say that our horoscopes or the astrology positions of planets is a reflection of our karma, right? This is the second one. The third one is, now if I suffer, it is not because of an unjust God, right? It is because of my remote past action which I don't remember now. Therefore, God can never be unjust. There is no injustice in this world, right? We seem to think sometimes, but then that is because we are not able to recollect the past papa karmas, right? So otherwise what happens is, when we suffer, we say, oh, God is very unfair and I will not pray to God, etc., right? So this way faith in God will not be shaken. And the fourth attitudinal change is, if I accept the law of karma, very important, I can take responsibility for my future. I can take charge of my life, because the law of karma says my present situation is the result of my past action. So you can extend this and say that my future situation will depend upon my present action. Therefore, if I can intelligently live in the present, I can influence my future, right? And this will restore my belief in free will and avoid fatalistic tendencies, right? Because when the prarabdha, the karma is working, it will help that we use our free will to do good and to not stop our effort, right? We may be able to influence, sometimes we may not be able to influence, but there are times when we are able to influence the future, and therefore doing good, right, now will actually help us in the future as well, right? So it is very, very important. So if I accept the law of karma, I am accepting my will and my freedom to shape my future. This is another advantage. And as it also answers one of the fundamental questions asked by many people: how come many good people are suffering, and how come many corrupt people are having a gala time? Very often this question comes, right? Now this is because of the something unethical, right, or socially unacceptable, which is not moral, as we have done in the past janmas, right? And we reap the benefit of that, right? So thus the law of karma is an extremely important law. Now we'll quickly see the three types of karma, right? Very, very important, right? Now because we have to discuss Videha Mukti based on this, so we will now discuss the type of karma. Now sanchita karma means the accumulated papa punyam over several janmas, right? That is the sanchita karma, right? Now out of this sanchita karma, which has come with us over several past janmas, a portion of it fructifies at the time of death of a individual, readying the next janma for this particular jiva, right? So a portion of the sanchita karma actually fructifies and determines your current janma. Current janma means if you are on the verge of like just crossing death, then current janma becomes the next janma, right? So prarabdha karma is the punyam and papam that fructify out of the sanchita karma that you will have to exhaust during the current janma, right? Then agami karma is nothing but the fresh accumulation of papam and punyam that we do during our lifetime, from the time of birth until we pass away. Until a certain age, of course, the child is not doing anything willfully, right? So there is no agami karma until then, right? So similarly, animals also do not have any agami karma. They are only exhausting their prarabdha karma in this janma, because they don't have a free will. There is no agami karma at all, right? Now, the prarabdha karma and agami karma, some of the agami karma will fructify in this janma itself, some will fructify only later. So when you exhaust the prarabdha karma and the karma that is meant for completion in this janma, death will come, right? That is how the normal karma rule applies, and the normal ajnani will have a life, right? And at the time of death, whatever is left out of the agami karma, which has to go back, will go and join the sanchita karma, and the next bundle of prarabdha karma will get ready for us to make sure that the next janma we can exhaust, right? This also happens in the at the time of death, right? So sanchita karma is the karma that has got accumulated over several janmas, right? So for the ignorant person, at the time of death, the new prarabdha karma, whatever is fructifying, like a fixed deposit, maturing, that prarabdha karma will get ready, right? And in Brahma Sutra Bhashyam, Shankaracharya actually talks about this, saying that it will be ready as the person actually leaves the body in this janma itself. In a subtle form, the kind of body, the karma, everything is already prepared for the next janma. That is what the Brahma Sutra Bhashyam says, right? Now, certain corollaries, right? Every experience that we undergo in our life is either because of our prarabdha karma or the agami karma. Therefore, we stop blaming others in the world for all our experiences. Second is, take responsibility for your future, right? Don't take to fatalistic philosophy saying that everything is in the hands of some unknown destiny. No, agami karma is completely in our hands only, right? Very, very important. We can influence it. And in the Gita, in the 6th chapter, in the verse that starts Uddared Atman-atmanam, right? Krishna tells Arjuna, do not expect me to uplift you. I will never do that. I will encourage you, but you and you alone will have to uplift you, right? Even in a say a children's race, the parents can only cheer the children. The children have to do that extra work to come first or compete in a competition, right? This is the second important corollary. That is, take responsibility for your future. Third is, never make the wrong equation between karma phalam and karta, right? At any given time, a person is experiencing either the prarabdha phalam or agami phalam. So we can call them the actions of the remote karta and the current karta, because your prarabdha karma, prarabdha phalam is coming from a previous karta or a multiple kartas in previous janma, right? So it can be, it's a remote karta and current karta, both are the same jiva. Prarabdham and the current karta has produced agami. Now when these experiences come, our human tendency always is to correlate or connect the karta and the experience, right? What will we say? Oh, I was such a good person, how come this is happening, right? We'll say that he's a good person and therefore he has good experiences. Nothing like that. Always the correlation is with your previous janmas also, right? We also come across several instances where a person whom we consider as extremely good undergoes miserable experiences, and the person whom we consider bad has very pleasurable experiences, and we often get confused, right? In the Mahabharata, Pandavas who follow dharma suffered all along, and even spending 13 long years, Duryodhana did not give them back the kingdom, right? So we need to bear in mind that prarabdha is not associated with the current karta, but prarabdha is the result of the action of the remote karta. So the purva janma karta, whom we don't see at all. Therefore, when we correlate the prarabdha anubhava and the current karta, they will not match. That is why when we see good people suffering, we have these doubts, right? And we get sometimes angry with the world, because at that time we never think about this aspect. But we should never make the wrong equation between karma phalam and the karta, right? The fourth corollary is an interesting one. We have seen that our experiences are in the form of both agami and prarabdha, right? Both prarabdha, punya, papam, right? Both. Now, that is why we call it adhishtam. Now, there are some prayachitta karma that you can do to neutralize them, right? Only problem is, therefore, when you go to astrologers and the astrologers tell you, okay, do this prayachitta karma, etc., we can try and do, but the strength of the prarabdha papam or prarabdha punyam, we do not know, we are not aware. So sometimes the prayachitta karma can neutralize, sometimes it can influence and make the suffering less. Sometimes there will be no way the prayachitta karma can influence the prarabdha karma that is fructifying at all. So though there is an availability of prayachitta karma, we need to know that we have this inherent problem because we are not aware of how strong the prarabdha karma is in this case, right? So we do not know if we can neutralize or counter it fully. A very, very important aspect of karma. Then the punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle will continue forever as long as you are an ajnani. So that's the fifth and final corollary, right, of the law of karma, right? That in any particular janma or birth, we never exhaust all the karmas. We may exhaust the prarabdha or we may even neutralize some prarabdha, but we still have that big baggage of sanchita karma which continues, right? So as a ajnani, we will not be able to get out of the punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle, right? Now, this is accepted by some religions, some others reject it. But in the Vedic teaching, the cycle of births and rebirths is a natural corollary of law of karma. And as I said, in the case of animals, if they continue to have animal janma, they will only be exhausting their prarabdham. There is no fresh agami karma at all. So, as Swamiji says, even the dogs can have prarabdha punyam. If they are born in, a rich, they are, being brought up in a, or is the pet of a rich person, the dog will have a good life. Sometimes the dog is a street dog, right? But they do not have any agami karma because they do not indulge in any planned action using their intellect, right? So, in a way, not in a derogatory sense, the dog is like a jnani. It is actually exhausting all the prarabdham, right? It avoids agami, right? But we should not believe that, the dog can get liberated, because the dog cannot gain jnanam. There is a baggage of sanchita karma that is still there. So the dog will have to repeatedly go through punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam to exhaust the fructifying sanchita karma which comes in as prarabdha karma. Very, very important corollaries all these are, right? Now, coming to what is death, right? Now, this is how the process works. At the time of death, the prarabdha is exhausted. In fact, it is on exhaustion of the prarabdha that death occurs, right? At the time of death, a part of agami is also experienced and exhausted. The unexperienced part of the agami will join the sanchita karma, right? So when the prarabdha is exhausted, sthula shariram or the physical body will fall off, right? The sukshma shariram and karana shariram continue even after death. The reflected consciousness also continues after death. So only the sthula shariram and its reflection goes away. So in your diagram, RM1 goes away, but RM2, RM3, RC2, RC3, right? Sthula, Sukshma, Karana Shariram are there. Sthula Shariram goes away. Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram remains, and the corresponding consciousness remain, right? They all continue. And of course, the original consciousness, the all-pervading consciousness exists. So the Jiva, consisting of the original consciousness, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira, media, and the respective reflected consciousness survives. This is what we loosely refer to as the word soul. When they say, may the soul, continue its journey, etc., we are referring to this part, right? Which is a combination of Sukshma Karana Shariram along with the reflected consciousness and the OC blessing. This is what continues, right? So this part continues and travels, and they go through their, get ready for their next jananam, right? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle will continue, right? But the OC obviously does not travel. It is infinite and all pervading, right? So only the travel is RMs and RCs. The Jivatma acquires another body, as I said, in order to exhaust the prarabdham of that body and collects fresh agami in its next cycle. And this is how the punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle goes on, right? Now this is the death, right? So RCs of Sukshma Shariram and Karana Shariram continue. Now, in the case of Videha Mukti, or in the case of a jnani, what happens, right? There is no agami karma at all, right? For the jnani. Why? Because there is no kartrutvam and bhoktrutvam. There is no ahankara and mamakara. There is no ragadvesha. Therefore, when the jnani does something, he is not thinking, I am doing, I the ahankara is doing, or I the ego is experiencing. He doesn't have that bhoktrutvam and kartrutvam. Therefore, the Shastra says that there is no agami karma, right? Now, the sanchita karma is destroyed through jnanam. This is what the Shastram say. It is similar to a dreamer who is waking up, right? He is waking up to his higher nature, and the sanchita karma gets destroyed through jnanam, right? Because he knows that he's claiming the Atma behind the body mind. Therefore, he knows he is woken up to his higher nature, and therefore the Sanchita karma is destroyed through Jnanam. This is what the Shastram say, and most of the Upanishads dwell on this teaching quite a bit and explain, right? And the Prarabdha karma continues till exhaustion. That is why if you see, for instance, Arjuna in chapter 2 of Gita is asking Krishna, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha. How do I recognize a Sthita Prajna or a person in Brahmi Sthiti? And then Krishna gives all the characteristics, features of such a person, right? So such a person is a Jivan Mukta while living, right? He enjoys equanimity. He's mentally, very calm, etc. But he will continue his life without bhoktrutvam and kartrutvam. That is that doership and experiencingship until the prarabdha karma is exhausted. So as per the prarabdha karma, without any resistance, he will go through the life, right? It does not bother him at all if he has any problems also, because he does not have an ego. He will just patiently go through that, right? Whether it is punyam or papam, they don't have an ego, and therefore a jnani does not acquire any fresh punyam or papam, right? So he lives life as a Jivan Mukta, right? And this jnani is liberated wherever he dies and whenever he dies. So we don't call it dying, we say samadhi, and then we celebrate it as an aradhana after the jnani's body, mortal body falls. He is liberated while living, and he attains Videha Mukti at the time of death, as we refer to in the case of normal human beings, right? So this is Videha Mukti. So with this, I've actually completed this, the introduction to Vedanta series. I still have one particular shloka which I had promised to do at the end, which is the last one that we chant, Purnamada shloka. And of course, I think I've answered some of the questions that I put in the PowerPoint, but I will still take questions. But let me just explain Purnamada, and then we will go to the question. Now, this is the stanza that we chant. This is the shloka that we chant at the end. What this means, okay, I am not going to explain too much, because you at least need to go through 1 or 2 chapters of Gita to understand this. Ada Purnam means Ishvara, the infinite. Idam Purnam means this Jiva is infinite from the standpoint of Aatmaa. And Purnat, from the infinite Ishvara, Jiva, right, who's from the standpoint of Anaatmaa, is born, right? So basically, Jiva, from the standpoint of Anaatmaa, is born, right, from the infinite Ishvara. And the second line is, right, of the infinite Jiva, the infinite Aatma, right, is separated, and infinite Aatma alone remains, right? I'm not going to get into the explanation. You can dwell on this because it takes a while to understand this. So when the Aatma is removed from the Jiva, what do we expect to remain? We think Anaatma will remain, but the Upanishad says when Aatma is separated from the Jiva, Aatma alone remains, and Aatma does not, Anaatma does not remain. Very, very important, right? And when Aatma is separated, the Anaatma cannot exist, and Anaatma depends upon the Aatma for its existence. Therefore, Anaatma is not there, right? If you understand, it's fine. Otherwise, during your journey of the Upanishads, I'm sure you will relate to this, right? Now, let me take questions. Let me see if anybody has raised their hands. Okay. How is Nididhyasanam more effective? What practices practically should be done daily? Okay. The answer to this question is, first of all, as we practice Karma Yoga, we must get into the habit of doing a little bit of yoga, because the breathing practice is what will help us get into meditation. And also as a step prior to meditation, because you cannot get into nididhyaasana straight, we need to, go through the other value-based meditations that we talked about in Upasana Yoga. And as a precursor to that, we can also do japam. So slowly we move on this track of, a combination of listening to, that is shravanam every day, plus meditation of some form or japam. And then over a period of few years, when we feel comfortable with the 5 capsules of Vedanta and the features of consciousness, we can start dwelling on this every day for say half an hour, 1 hour, etc. Depending on how often, we feel comfortable and how often we need it. All depends. It's a personal journey, and we can, go through it depending on how much we need that, right? But one thing is for certain, you will definitely see FIR reduction and CCC increase, and it's for each one to discern this themselves. The next question is, what kind of karma is a quest for self-realization? I think I answered this through Videha Mukti later. You would have understood this, right? Now, is the concept of karma to give a feeling of psychological safety to the individual? No, if you go through the Shastra and you believe in the law of karma, then the way to look at it as itself is very different, as we discussed the corollaries some time back, right? Now, if we make a wrong equation between karma phalam and the present karta, right? Who is very cruel? Are we to bear with him for his cruel deeds? Right? Yeah, some of these we can influence, some of them we cannot influence. As I said, the prayachita karma also, sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not, because we do not know the power of the prarabdha karma that is fructifying, right? So it is important for us to understand the limitations of the prayachita karma that we are doing or the agami karma that we are doing and proceed. Okay, this was a thank you from someone. How long would I be able to access the recorded lecture? This will be available. There is no problem, because there are many people who are still catching up. So there's no problem. And next week we will anyway have a summary session. Very important, because that is the session where I will be tying up everything. And you can also, as I suggested, if you have further questions, please do write in so that I can put them together and respond to you at the end of the summary class, which will happen next week, right? Now, the next question was, does the intensity of an action affect the fruit or result of the action in terms of the time of arrival of the fruit? Definitely, but only thing is we are not sure about how this works, because the Shastra doesn't talk about the intensity and the fruit or result. It does talk about some of the papams, punyams, etc. But we don't know in which janma, when it will fructify, etc. Right? So that we don't know, right? I drink a glass of juice. Is that an action or the fruit of past karma? Now, drinking a glass of juice is an agami karma. You can actually use your willful mind and have a glass of juice, right? So that is fine. That's agami karma. Now, whether you will get juice or not, that depends on, it's a sum of all prarabdha karma as well as agami karma, right? Then, okay, this is regarding karma. Does my karma affect my spouse and my children, and can I do prayachitam for the spouse or children? Very, very often asked question, okay, and I actually had a bhiksha in our house recently, and somebody did ask Swamiji this question. And we must remember that we all come together as a family because our karmas mesh together. That is one, on the first part of the question. Second one, can I do prayachitam for the spouse or children? To a limited extent, you can do. But beyond that, you will not. Sometimes, like as Swamiji says, there are some diseases which you can only have palliative care. Some you can remove the source of the problem and actually cure the disease. So Similarly, our prayachita karma also depends on the strength of the prarabdham coming together, right? Now the next question is, if a jnani is liberated wherever and whenever he dies, does it mean, according to Gita, anyone who dies in Uttarayana Shukla Paksha is a jnani, because Krishna says such a person attains liberation? Oh, okay. Now, as we went through this portion in the Bhagavad Gita, very clearly Swamiji interpreted this based on Shankaracharya's Bhashyam, as well as other Vartikams and other Bhashyams, commentaries that are there, that no, it's not so. It doesn't matter, you know, in which paksha the person passes away at all, right? The jnani will be liberated wherever he dies and whatever time he dies. That is very, very clear, right? So he explained this in one of the classes, saying that this has also been clearly articulated in many of the commentaries, right? Now, how is the pralayam timing decided then? The pralayam timing is obviously the composite, what should I say, summation or result of the equation, the law of karma equation across all the jivas in this world, right? So that is how the pralayam timing is decided, right? I can't follow how prayachita rituals can eradicate bad karma phalam. It cannot eradicate completely. That's what I'm saying. It all depends on what kind of karma phalam. If the prarabdham is so bad, then you will not be able to eradicate. You can only reduce the impact, if at all. But if it is something that can be countered or neutralized, then you can, right? That is important to understand, right? Now, let's see if anybody else wants to ask a question here. Indra Natrajan, I can see your hands up here. I think you muted yourself. Indra, would you like to go? Would you like to speak up? I guess the others anyway asked questions. Okay. Venkateshwaran Gopala, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Madam, this departed soul coming back according to the law of karma, then how the world population keeps on increasing? See, if who leaves, another soul comes back, then you see, but we see constantly the increasing is taking place. Does it mean animals turn into human beings or birds turn into human beings?
Yeah, so that is a good question. First of all, there are infinite species, infinite number of jivas, and you're right. Depending on the karma phalam fructifying, there may be more species getting in as human beings and lesser number of animals and insects. So there are infinite number of species, and that's the response to your question. You're right.
Madam, we understand there is 85 lakh species only.
Correct.
Not infinite, infinite number. So
Infinite number of jivas. Infinite number of jivas corresponding to so many species.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is how it works, right? Okay. Now, Uma Nathan, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question? Okay, I think she's not there. Okay. Yeah, it's can't be unmuted. It says, okay. Can you speak up now, Uma? Indra? Indra Natrajan is also muted. Okay. Anybody else who has a question and has raised the hand, I can check. Otherwise, you can please definitely ask questions. You can send us the questions also, and I will answer it during the summary session. Now I'm just going to see if there are any more questions here. Yeah, one second. Yeah, there is a question here. One second. Did you discuss today Sthula Bhautika Sharira? I missed a few minutes as it was not connecting. Sthula Bhautika Sharira was discussed during the Sharira Trayam topic that we did about 2 classes earlier. You can look up that session so that you can understand exactly what we mean by gross body, right? Now, Krishna repeatedly says in the Gita, surrender unto me. So, is he the impersonal Brahman or an individual? Now, in the entire Gita, we have Krishna taking the Saguna Roop as well as Rupam as well as Nirguna Rupam, and he does switch between the 2 Rupams. In the chapters that are focusing on Upasana Yoga, there is a lot of Krishna as a personal God, right? And in the ones that focuses on Jnana Yoga, he goes to his higher self. So you can see that Krishna does switch between these 2 rupas, and Krishna also talks about different levels of bhakti, different levels of puja, start out with Sakama puja and go to Nishkama puja, etc. Right? So it is, both are covered in Gita. After death, is there any chance of not getting a new body? What about ghosts, etc.? Now, this is not talked about in at least some of the portions, the Upanishads and the Brahma Sutra that I have gone through, but the portions in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya that speaks about, the soul actually traveling and acquiring a new body, you don't get the feeling that it's actually a ghost in ghost sense, right? But the Sukshma Karana Shariram, along with the reflected consciousness, is obviously just subtle, right? And the new Jiva that it acquires is also extremely subtle. So to that extent, you may, extend it to this, but the Shastra doesn't dwell upon this aspect at all. And it just says that the Jiva on the departure from this soul just moves on and takes its own journey. Right? How is the tamo part of subtle elements not used in Sukshma Sharira Shrishti? Yeah, it is not used in Sukshma Sharira Shrishti, but only in the gross body. In the Sthula Bhuta Shrishti, it is used, the tamo guna part. Correct. How come the concept of planchette works then? I don't know what planchette, how soul returns back after death. Yeah, I did speak about Punarjanma, right? And I spoke about how it takes a new Jiva. I didn't say the same person comes back. The same Jiva comes back. The same Jiva comes back in a new body, right? In Gita, it is very clearly said, Vasansi Jirnani Yata Vihani. Basically, you are actually can take different bodies. It is not the same body, right? Yeah, I was not able to unmute myself, Uma Nathan. Okay, one second. Let me just check if I can unmute you, Uma. Yeah, go ahead, Uma.
Oh, thank you so much. I have enjoyed listening to your lectures. It is such an eye-opener. I would love to listen to this every day. I might sign up for other lectures for a fee, of course. And I just wanted to, it was me who asked you the question, how long would I be able to access the recorded lectures? Because a few of them, actually 3 or 4 of them, I'm ashamed to say that, I have missed. And will it be available for a while or for a limited time? And is there, how do I actually access this on a regular basis? Any information will be grateful.
It will be there, definitely. So not to worry at all. And if they're taking it off, I will ask them to let you all know. But I don't think it's going away anywhere in the next 6 months, 1 year. It will remain there because we definitely wanted this introduction to Vedanta to be there for some time. So it will be there.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's been life-changing, and you take us into a divine realm for 1 hour every Sunday. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
for
Thank
that.
you.
But
And I just wanted to mention to all of you that my ID, I think I didn't put it down anywhere. It's sivaraman.rama@gmail.com. In case any of you want to continue on this personal journey, I can direct you to the right guru, the right, recordings where you can continue. If you're in Chennai, of course, you're welcome to attend the classes of Swamiji. Otherwise, we can discuss on how you can take this forward if you're really interested, because the objective of this session was only to create an awareness. And in the next class, during the summary, I will definitely present a roadmap on how one can proceed further in, this Vedantic studies as well as Sanskrit lessons.
just one more question. I missed that. Sivaraman.rama@.
gmail.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Excellent. Anybody else? Otherwise, you can please write into me and I will definitely include it in the next week and I will clarify. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me now complete with Purnamada. Just 1 second. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.